everyone, and welcome to this gouache painting tutorial. Today we're adding to our mini gouache painting video series, and we'll paint these two very simple fall pictures using almost the same colors for both of them. But without further introductions, let's get started by lining the sketchbook page with some washi tape. I like to use washi tape for this purpose because the glue in them is often slightly weaker, so it doesn't end up ripping your sketchbook paper. But still, to be on the safe side, I like to take off some of the stickiness by placing the tape on my table first before applying it to the notebook. Then here are all the colors we'll be using, but if you don't own these exact same shades, it doesn't really matter and you'll be able to get a very similar result by mixing other tones as well. So what we'll need are some warm brown or orange tones, then some sort of bluish green shade, and a black and white that can be mixed with the rest. All the tools I'm using are also listed in the description. But then let's get started with the first picture, and we're gonna paint this very light background first. This type of shade requires 99% white paint, which is the smallest drop of color. I also wanted there to be some variation in the background, so you'll see how I started from the middle with this almost pure white shade, and then little by little we are mixing a little bit of black, green and warm brown to it to create this very light, neutral, warm tone to the background. I was using pretty dry paints here, and these quick up and down motions with the brush to blend the colors together. And if in any point you feel like you have some too visible brush strokes, you can always get rid of those by cleaning your brush a little bit and then going over some of those areas with a small amount of water, which will almost blend the colors together a little bit more. But then after the background has fully dried, we're gonna start painting these puffy flowers, and we are starting from the darkest shades. I know this step will definitely look a little bit weird first, but it will all come together once we apply the rest of the colors and add some smaller details to the flowers. With gouache paints, it's usually the easiest order to start from the dark colors and then build all the lighter colors on top. So after these brown half circle shapes, I mixed this pretty bright mustardy yellow or orange shade that will be the main color for the flowers. So now we are making these circles a little bit bigger, and it's still not gonna look very good at this point, so don't worry about that and let's trust the process. So now we have these weird floating buff balls here, and next step is adding the stems to them so they'll slowly start to look a little bit more like flowers. I use this very thin brush to paint the stems, and they can be a little bit darker at the top, though the color doesn't really matter that much. I used this mixture of dark green and brown here, and the stems will also blend a lot to the background once we add some leaves here later. after this step, it's time to start finally adding all the details to the flowers, which will really transform them. So I started with this lighter orangey color that we're gonna apply to the outer edges of the flower. And after that, I also started to add some dark reddish brown color to the middle, which will blend the lower brown and the orange shade together a little bit better. I also kept adding even lighter tones to some of these flowers. And then lastly, we will also define the lower parts a little bit more where the flower connects with the stem. So this is the part where we're just gonna take our time and we'll just slowly build all these details that will make our painting look much more polished and put together. But after you start to be happy with the amount of details, we can now start to paint some leaves here. I didn't really have a plan for this step, so I started by just making a few of these bigger leaves with some grayish green color. In general, I try to avoid using super bright colors for either of these paintings. That will create this very muted fall appearance. So pretty much all of the colors will have some black and white mixed to them, which just creates a little bit grayish tone to a brighter color. I also added some simple grass leaves here and then just continued doing this until I thought there was enough going on in the lower part of the painting. But once you're happy with the amount of leaves, that's it for the first painting. And now we just need to contain the urge to rip the washi tapes off to reveal the final result. But we'll do that after we finish the second painting. So here I wanted to do something very different with the same colors we used. So I first added some more black to my painting palette, and then we're gonna start with this almost pure black background. So this uses the same colors we used for the leaves and stems in the previous picture, and now it will just work as our overall background. After this one has completely dried, I mixed a slightly lighter tone of green and started to paint some initial leaf shapes all across this background. The goal here is to have some variation again, so it will make some of these leaves stand out a little bit more from the rest, and doing that will just add a lot more dimension. So some leaves can be almost as dark as the background, and it will just give the appearance that they're a little bit lower and kind of into shadow, so they almost blend with the blackness of the background. One thing about painting on a dark background is that the colors often tend to dry a little bit lighter. So I would advise you to start with very dark tones and see how light it will end up looking once it has dried down a little bit. I also try to leave the center parts of these leaves slightly darker, and then we'll add most of the highlights to the edges of the leaves. But after you have some initial shapes here, I took out the same detailing brush again, and we're gonna start adding some black lines and highlights to the leaves. I think this is the step that completely changes this picture and makes the leaves look much more detailed and realistic maybe. So again, just take your time with this step, and you can also always keep adding some new leaves here and there if you feel like the picture still needs it. But then the final step here is to add the berries on top, which will add a similar reddish orange accent to this picture as in the previous one. So here I first added a little bit of red paint to my palette, and we're gonna use this red-brown color as the background for the berries. Again, some of them can be a little bit lighter, so it looks like they're higher and a little bit more highlighted in the picture. And then the berries that are more in the background can have a much darker background tone as well. But then I also started to add some highlights to the berries, which will just make them stand out even more. So you can do this by adding some lighter tones to the center and almost on one edge of the berries. And then we'll also add some small dark details to them, which again will just make them look a little bit more polished. Lastly, I decided to add some shadows around and kind of under the berries using pretty much the same color as in the background. And I feel like this added some indication that the berries are a little bit higher than the leaves, and they create this light shadow under them. I also added some pure black color even around the leaves because I felt like the background was looking a little bit too flat and we needed some even darker shadowy spots. But after you're happy with the amount of details here, we are finally done with this picture as well, and now it's time to rip off the tapes and reveal our beautiful clean edges. I really hope you enjoyed these two quick fall painting ideas, and as always, if you decide to try them out, let me know how it went for you. Also, if this was your first time around here and you want to stay tuned for more, definitely consider subscribing. It would be highly appreciated. But I guess that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having an amazing day or night wherever you are, and see you in my next one. Bye bye.